Hello guys, welcome back to the third part of this particular series where we were designing a to-do application from scratch. So in the first part, we have seen how we designed the to-do application in Figma, the design part. And then in the second part, we have made this using HTML and CSS. And now what we're going to do is we are going to make this active. So basically we are going to make this working. Right now nothing happens. So if I type something and press enter or click this button, nothing gets added to the list. So nothing is actually happening over here. And when I click on this checkbox, also nothing actually happens. Okay, so let's fix that. Now let's come to our Visual Studio Code and bring this side by side. So our CSS part is done. Let's open our Explorer and create a new folder called JS for JavaScript and add a script file, JavaScript file called main.js. And here I'm going to include that file in my body. Okay, so let me do script and let's add it as, okay. So I've added my file. So I'm all set and ready to go. Right now, the first thing that I would like to do is to see what is the data that is being entered. Okay, so I want to get the data from the form, and now immediately this is I'm getting annoyed by this outline that is coming. So let's quickly fix that before we go ahead. Go to main.css and go to this input form and let's make the outline to none. Okay, I don't want any outline, and let's close it. Let's come back, and now it's looking better. Okay, next we want to get the value whatever is entered in the to do. Okay, so for that, let's come out over here and check what is the structure of our form. So we have a div called to do form, and inside that I have a form. Okay, so there are multiple ways in which you can access the data, but the best way would be if it is inside a form, then we can simply access that form and assign an event listener to whenever the form is submitted. Okay, so that would be the best option. Another way would be to just you know find out the event, add a event listener to the button, click event listener to the button, and then whenever there is a click, you can just find out what is the value of the input element. Okay, so that is also one option, but then I like the form option much better. So let's move on to that. So let's select the form first. So let to do form is equal to document dot query selector, and the query that I'm going to do is, let's come back to the HTML. Let's select this to do form. So it's a class, so to do form, and inside that I want to target the form. Okay, so basically I'm reaching this form. Now the way I could have simply done this also. Okay, because there is only one form element in my form, but I wanted to be a bit more specific. That's why I have given the class also, so that it is restricted to this particular form only. Okay, so once that is done, now I can add a event listener to the to do form. So add event listener. So the event listener for the form will be submit. Okay, so when the form submits, I am going to run this. So this is the function that is going to be run, and it gives a parameter, it gets a parameter called event. So you can name it anything. I'm calling it as E. And the first thing that you should do is the default behavior of a form when you submit is to you know forward it to the next page. Okay, so you can see, let me go back to the form, and if I type something over here and press this button, just look at the URL, what happens. So it is actually going to that it is posting or sending the data to that particular page. Okay, we don't want that, to happen, because then every time the page will reload and all our data will be lost. Okay, so we don't want that. So we want to do, the first thing is e dot prevent default, that is the default functionality should be disabled. Okay, so once I do that, now let's go back, and now if I add anything and submit, you can see nothing actually happens. Okay, so it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, so now it is just waiting for us to do something. Okay, now let's see how we can get the data that is entered in the form. Okay, so we have this console dot log. Okay, and let's find out what is the, so let's just console log dot to do form. Okay, just save it and refresh and go to console. You can see there is nothing. Now let us type something. I'm entering hello, press the button, and you can see I'm getting something over here, and inside that I'm getting the basically this is the element that I'm getting. Okay, so now inside this element I can simply do dot and the name of the parameter that you want to access. Okay, so the name of the parameter is to do name. Okay, so let us see what is the value of to do name. Okay, so in the form, what is the value of to do name? Let's inspect and go to console and check. Let's type test and submit, and you get this particular target. Okay, so you get the input type text. Okay, so this field you are getting, and after that you can do a value to this. So this particular element I have got, then I'm going to do value and save it, and let's try one more time and press submit, and you get whatever you type. Okay, so you can see this is what I have got. Okay, so once this is done, let's once we know how to get the data from the form, now we can save it to something, some variable. Okay, so let's say to do data. Okay, or I should call it to do title. Okay, so title, and save it inside that variable. Okay, so once I get that, now the next task will be to add it to the table. Okay, now for that I will have to add this to the table that is there, that is a to do table, right? So for that there are multiple ways. I can do it from here itself, or I can create a function to do this, because I'm going to do this multiple times maybe. Okay, so it's better I would create a function. Okay, that way I can reuse it if it is required. Okay, so let's come down. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function. Let's call it add to do item. Okay, so that will be my function, and to this I'm going to give the title as the input. Okay, so this is going to be my function. So now I have to come down and define that function. So add to do item, which is going to get something called as a title. Okay, and now here I'm going to create this particular element. Okay, so I'm going to make this element now. Now let's start making it. Now there are multiple ways of doing it. The simplest and the easiest way would be just to copy the contents of one of the TRs. So I have this tr, come over here and just you know, let's set it to some HTML, and um, let's call it HTML content, and inside backticks I will be putting the tr. Okay, and I can I can change the text from here. So the text will be basically the title. I have to replace it over here. Now since it is using backticks, I can use dollar and this bracket and type title over here. So that will put everything inside this thing, HTML content. Now what I have to do next is I have to select the HTML table body part and append this particular entire string to it. Okay, so for that I can just do let HTML body is equal to document dot get sorry, let's do query selector, and the class is to do table, I think. Let me just confirm. So the class is to do table, and inside that I have table, and inside that I have t body. Okay, so let's go that way. So table and t body. So I have this. Now the only thing I have to do is HTML body dot inner HTML is plus equal to. When I do plus equal to, it means it is trying to append the data, right? Plus equal to HTML content. Okay, so basically I'm just adding it to the end of the HTML body. Okay, so let's try this now. It should work. Let's say go cycling, press enter, and that works. Okay, so it adds it to the end of the string. So now one more thing, you can see that once we add one element, this should clear out, right? So that is not happening. So let's come over here. Once we do this, then we can simply set the value equal to a blank string, so that next time when something happens, some entry is done, it clears out. Okay, so okay, perfect. So now it is working. uh, so the first part is done. That means we can add our to do from this form inside the to do table. Okay, now obviously this will not, this is not going to persist, because as soon as I refresh, it goes to the default state. Now this is not the topic of today's thing, because we are not using any storage mechanism. So we will make a different video on how we can do that. So for the time being, let's we will be handling this uh, in this format. In the next video we will try to make it persistent. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's do the next part. So the next part is going to be very simple. I want to whenever I do a checkbox, whenever I select a checkbox, it should mark that particular entire thing as complete. Okay, now to find out what all things we have to perform, you can see this is the sample that we have created. Okay, so for a complete task. So the difference between this and this is that the tr has a class complete. So that is the first difference. Then the second difference is the checkbox is checked. Okay, so that will happen automatically, because that is the trigger what we are going to do. And the third is the text should be marked as complete. Okay, so these are the three things that we will have to do. Okay, So let's first of all find out, is the user trying to click something? Okay, now uh, one option would be to get each and every checkboxes and add an event listener to them, and add a click event listener to them. Okay, but then let's suppose if we have 100 checkboxes in our to do form. Okay, so there will be 100 event listeners that are going to be running, right? So that will seriously affect our performance. So instead of that, we will use the concept of event bubbling. uh, so where what we're going to do is, we are not going to assign an event listener to individual checkboxes, but rather we are going to assign one event listener to the outer parent. Okay, so that parent can be anything. It can be the entire table, or it can be the T body part, or it can be this white div, that is the to do table class, or you can also add an event listener to the entire body. Okay, so anywhere, and we are going to handle the click in that fashion, so that the burden of adding event listeners to each and every checkboxes can be reduced. Okay, so let's see how we can do it. So I am thinking of adding an event listener to the table. So let's first select the table. Okay, so I think we have already selected the HTML body over here. Okay, so let's do one thing. We will remove this from here, and we will take it outside somewhere around here. Okay, and I will I will add an event listener to this. Okay, so let's save it and see if everything still works. So everything still works. Now I will add an event listener to the HTML body. Okay, so HTML body is this particular section, because all the checkboxes are inside this only. So we can add one single event listener to this HTML body. So basically, just to show you from the HTML reference, we are adding an event listener to this. Okay, you can add an event listener to the table also, or to this particular div, that is to do table also, or to the entire container. Okay, you can, it's your wish how do you want to handle it. Okay, but only thing is, don't it would be better if you don't apply event listener to each and every checkbox separately. Okay, so that will create a problem when the number of checkboxes are high. Okay, so let's go ahead and do HTML body dot add event listener, and let's add an event listener for the click and do function. It is going to be event event. Okay, now let's do console.log and just say hi. Okay, let's inspect, go to console. Now if I now if you remember, we have added the click listener, event listener, to the T body. Okay, so wherever I click, the event will not be triggered. Even in fact, even inside this table T head, it will not be triggered. But if I click the check boxes, you can see the high gets triggered. Also, it will get triggered when I click anywhere inside the T body. Okay, so you can see anywhere I click, it is going to print high. Okay, so this I don't want. Okay, I don't want this to happen. So what I want is, I want only this checkbox to be affected. Okay, so whenever I click the checkbox, this high should print. Okay, so let's see how we can accomplish that. So for that, I can simply get the event variable. So E is the event variable. I can set the target. I can get the target, and inside the target I can check. Now if it's a checkbox, it will, there will be a checked attribute. Okay, so I can use that. So let's see if that will help. So now if I click over here, you can see it says undefined. Okay, whereas when I do this, it says true or false. Okay, so whenever I'm clicking on the checkbox, it says true or false, but whenever I'm clicking somewhere else, it says undefined. Okay, so this I can use to filter out the events. You could have used other things also, like you could have checked if there is a it has an attribute called checkbox. Okay, so I will show you one more method. So I can say eTarget now has attribute. So type comma. Okay, so let's see what uh, let's do get attribute. Okay, so get attribute type. Okay, so let's save it and let's go back to this and let's try to click it. So you can see the attribute type is not there in any other elements. Okay, but when we go to the checkbox, it shows me the value as checkbox. Okay, so this is another method of checking if you are clicking the checkbox or not. Okay, let's let's use this method. Okay, this method looks a bit better, so let's use this. Okay, so if uh, yeah, we will try to use both of them. Let's see. Okay, if this type is equal to check box, then that means the checkbox is clicked. Okay, so this is what I mean by uh, when I check this particular checkbox, when I check this particular condition, I'm basically checking if the clicked element is a checkbox or not. Okay, so I have done this. uh, Next I want to next check whether the value of the checkbox is checked or unchecked. Okay, so for that we have seen, let's do if again, and let's do e dot target dot checked. Okay, so this will return true if it is checked and false if it is not. Okay, so this is what uh, it's going to do, right? So it is going to check if it is checked means the checkbox is checked. If it is true means that the checkbox is checked. If it is false means the checkbox is unchecked. Okay, so once that is the case, now what I want to do is I want to find the parent of this particular checkbox. Okay, so checkbox is in e dot target, so I want to find the parent. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I know that a particular checkbox is checked. Now I want to go back and find the tr and add a class complete to it. Okay, now to get to the parent, you can see the checkboxes over here, right? Input type checkbox. The first immediate parent is going to be td, and then the next parent is going to be tr. Okay, so now to reach to tr you will have to go back 2 steps, then only you will reach tr, right? So for that, let's do let's initialize a variable. Let's call it let tr is equal to, so e dot target dot parent node. Okay, and this will go 1 step back, and one more time I will be doing parent node. So this will go 2 steps back. Okay, so and that is it. Now I can assign a class to this. So tr dot class list, tr dot class list dot add. Whenever I do check, I should add a class, and the class name is called complete, and that's it. Now let's try it out. So if I add, when I do check, it adds the complete class to it, and if I remove it, nothing happens because we have not yet done anything on the else condition. Okay, now in the else, again I will be needing this tr variable, right? So it's better we shift it to a top level so that it is accessible in both the if as well as else. And now I can just copy this command from here, and instead of adding it, I will be removing it. Okay, so that is it. So now if I select, it makes it complete. If I remove, it removes the style. Okay, so it's that simple. So it works. Now very important part would be to add a new entry, and if that works in this also, then our whatever we have done till now will be a success, and it works. Okay, okay, so now one more thing to understand is, if you would have assigned uh, event listeners to each and every checkboxes, then when you add a new checkbox, that event listener would have to be added again. Okay, so that will not work. So so it is a good idea to use this particular method of assigning the event, a single event listener, to the entire t body part. Okay, t body or entire container element. Okay, now the next thing that I want to do is, uh, so everything looks perfect, but when I do check, this is still saying pending. Okay, so I want it to say complete. Okay, so now how to do that? So I have the tr. Okay, so I want to get the uh, child of that particular element. Okay, so for that I can just say, okay, so let's find out. I think it is last child. Last element child. Let's console.log and check if I'm correct or not. Okay, so let's save it, inspect, and go to console and select one, and you see I get td pending. Okay, so that works. Now once we have that, I can simply do, once I get the last child, I can do inner HTML is equal to complete, and that makes it complete. Nice. Okay, but when I remove it, it doesn't work. So I just have to copy this, paste it over here, and instead of complete, I should just say pending. That's it. Okay, so this should work. So when I check it, it becomes complete. When I remove the checkbox, it becomes pending. Okay, and I can also add additional elements that will also work in the same way. Okay, now the next thing that I want to do, now everything is done. Now the next thing that I want to do is, again, copy the entire thing, duplicate it, and this time I want to add, you could have added a button as a third column and added a delete button over here, but I'm going to take a shortcut and use a different kind of event. So if I do double click, it should delete that particular task. Okay, so let me do double click. So if I do double click on that particular element or that particular row. Okay, so it should give me, it should delete that particular node. Okay, so let's see how we can do it. So first of all, I have to uh, get the target. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's do console.log and let's check. I want to get the tr, right? So let's check e dot target dot node name. Okay, let's see what this returns us. Okay, so let's inspect, go to console, and let's click somewhere, and nothing actually happens. Okay, now if I double click, still nothing happens. Okay, that was my mistake. It was dbl click. Okay, so it is double, so the event name is dbl click, that is double click. So now let us save it and go to inspect and check if I get, so if I do a single click, nothing actually happens, but if I do double click, it shows me that it is a td. Okay, so okay, so that works. Now what I want is whether it is a td or a tr. So let's do, let's check if the node name is td. Okay, so if it is td, then what I want to do is first get the parent node of the td. Okay, so the parent node will be the tr. Okay, so if td is the node which is being clicked, so the parent node of the td will be tr. Okay, so I got the tr. Now what I want to do is whenever there is a double click, I want to remove the child. Okay, so sorry, remove the node. So let's see if I have remove. That's it. So that removes my tr from my list. Okay, so if I double click, so that gets removed, and I can remove everything from here. And now I can add new elements, and once I add, I can keep making it check, and once I'm happy with this, I can double click and remove it. Okay, so that's it. So that is our entire application of the to do application that we have designed. Okay, so let's do a final review of how it looks. So this is how it looks. Let's do a refresh and let's add some tasks. So make dinner, dream good, earn rep. Okay, so you got these, and now I can mark them complete. Okay, and then if I want to remove any one of them, I can double click and remove it. So that's it. That is our to do application finally working. Now in the next part, we will try to make this you know right now if I just refresh, everything goes away. Okay, so next time, next part, we will try to persist the data. Okay, in some form of a a local storage or something. Okay, so till then, see you and have a nice day.